presentation, put the sound back in the video so that I was able to upload it to YouTube with sound and not have to re-record it because I don't want to have to re-record every demo we do.
You're welcome. Those incantations aren't cheap.
Well, I'll remember when grade time comes. Today is January 16th, and we're going to try to pick up that's the royal we. We're going to try to pick up where we left off, and I think it was I'm going with WG triple 001B. Does anybody remember the name of the project last time? Because I'm running into project namespace overload here. But I'm going to right-click. Watch what I can do. Right-click, and somewhere it should say duplicate. There it is, duplicate. And I shall call you, let me see, what's a creative name? Let me start a pattern maybe so I can try to figure out what the hey I'm doing. I shall call this, no. Well, I'll leave you. Now I've got a backup of the backup. Right click, where's the rename? This is ridiculous. Thank you. Up, Dr. England, up. 2, double 2. Now, that is an exact copy. Now, I'm going to send you to the trash. You're trash. Huh? I thought that was go to trash. It heard me, and now I've messed things up. I'll delete it later. Let me just get back to where I was. Please bring me back to where I was. In-class demos. I don't want copy 2. I want this one. So double-click on that. Now, that brought me up to this point. If you followed my real fast recommendations, I said, don't save it just on the machine that you're working on. There's no guarantee you'll get back to the same machine. So I do recommend that you work on it locally while you're working on it. When you're done, then copy the whole thing. You might want to zip it up, but copy the whole thing to your G drive? That doesn't sound right. Google Drive? G Drive is my directory for short. Okay, copy it to your Google Drive. Man, this has caffeine. I hope it does the trick. Copy it to your Google Drive, but then when you come back, whether you're using a different machine or not, I would say copy it off of your G Drive, also known as Google Drive, copy it back to your local machine. And that's not going to make it run at hyperspeed, but it will certainly make it run a lot faster than if you try to compile it and run it on your Google Drive. And if you've tried to do that, then you know what I'm talking about. But now we have it, and now that I am back in this folder this has all the source code files. There they are, .swift. This is the project file. And all you got to do is double click on this. And it should open Xcode for you. And if it does not do that in the lab, then let me know, because that means there's some file associations I need to set. Did everybody see what I did there? It did work? Yay, one less thing that I have to do in the lab. There any questions about the steps I've followed so far? All I did was pretend copy it from the Google Drive and click on the project, Xcode project file, and that's what opens it. And I forgot exactly how far we got, so I shall run it. And we got as far as, oh, I know what it does. It prints a little message down here for a click. Isn't that right? I'm entertaining you with the cursor, waiting for the simulator to get going. Come on. Do it. Show me some. There we are. And there. Tapped on D, tapped on G. And that's wonderful. That means we can detect when one of these is tapped on, except there is no indicator of that whatsoever on the screen, you'll notice. And let's see if we can fix that. Here's the deal. Let me get this bigger. I'm going to start by, one more thing. Why on the keyboard? We're on the keyboard. Why on the keyboard? This was a new file. I made a new file. It's part of the view. It started off with Import Foundation. I've seen this problem recently. Why did I change that to Import Swift UI from Import Foundation? You use stuff with Swift UI. If it says it doesn't understand stuff, like here we've got fill color blue. If it says, I don't know what color blue is, then think of that as a possibility, especially if it's something linked to the, or associated with the interface. Then you're going to need Swift UI. Foundation is just the very fundamental nuts and bolts basics. And the Swift UI is a whole lot more stuff, including colors and shapes and all that stuff. Okay. Well, are there any questions about the code that we have right now before I take care of this pitiful little file here a little bit? So this pitiful little file here, what, refresh my aging alien memory, what is the model supposed to be doing?
Which is all the data and logic.
It's the memory it keeps up with all the data and also all the activity. That's where all the algorithms go. It does all the thinking part and stores the state of the game and stores all the values of the variables and everything. So I'm going to put a structure over here that is the sort of companion structure for a keypad key, a keyboard key. A keyboard key, that's just a colorful candy shell to show you what a keyboard key looks like on the screen. But if you think about it, the model, the strategy of the game is going to also have to know about the letters that have been pecked on the keyboard and everything to know what to set up as the next guess and all that kind of stuff. So stop talking, start typing. I call this, and I am running out. I will accept suggestions for better names of these structures and classes if we have more classes. But a letter option. A letter option, I'm going to say, is a generic for a letter that the user can choose on the screen, like an A or an S or a D or whatever. And also, I've started doing this. This is my own convention here. I'm going to have an ID that's an integer for no particularly good reason, except, yes, for a particularly good reason. Why would I want to have a weird named variable ID? Look at this. My goodness. It's trying to help me. I shall take it. And I want a letter. I want to have the letter that the user is choosing. They've chosen a letter option. They want A to be part of their guess. Does anybody, if you search the corners of your memory, does anybody have any idea why I might want to specifically have a variable named ID? For the 4-H thing, also known as the for each thing. But it doesn't do me any good unless I say, look, this AI is smarter than I am. It's smarter than real I. Identifiable. If you make your structure identifiable, that means you'll be able to for each through it and make in a loop, if you want, a bunch of different views here. Now, this is just so I can loop through it easily, regardless of whether or not I'm going to for each through it. But I've got an ID, and I think I'm going to start probably putting that in most structures anyway. The model, I don't need to do that because I only have one model. What is this? I need to get going with comments too. A single letter that the user can choose. That's what that is. Now, the model is going to need an array of those things. So I'll need a var, and I'm going to call it, without any creativity whatsoever, letter options. And that's going to be an array. An array, you specify the date. Stop it. Let me type it myself. Array, you specify what you want to have in it in the pointy brackets. It's a different kind of a thing. It's not a fundamental data type like it is in C++. It's actually got to be constructed and made and all that stuff. It's more like a class. But it is going to be letter option. But I'm not... There. Now I have a variable. What's this say? Expected member name or initializer call. Well, if you're going to have variables inside your structure and their values are not going to be set by someone that allocates that structure, then you have to have an init function, which is the closest thing I can think of. Closest thing I can think of to what we're doing is that it's like a constructor. You've got to initialize all your variables. And I am going to have something that you've got to invoke the model with. I'm going to say you've got to specify the number of letter options, which in effect is going to be how many different letter keys there are on the keyboard. I might not keep this long term, but this gives a better illustration of what you might do with the net. And of course, that's an integer. So now, if you want to construct yourselves a model, I don't know why. Oh, that's fitting the structure. There. If you want to construct yourselves a model, then you have to specify how many letter options there are going to be. And now, since I did not, this is only specifying a data type up here. The data type of letter options, whoops, and I did it wrong if that's the case. No wonder it was trying to put parentheses. There. Now I've specified that it is an array of letter options, but I have not allocated it, and that's what I'm going to let init do.
Put a semicolon instead of
Thank you. I can be the mouth, and you folks can be the eyes, okay? So you be my eyes, and I'll be my mouth. Letter options, now I'll make one. It has to be that data type, and the parentheses. And if you wonder, why do we need both of those? This is kind of like, that one up top was like a variable declaration. This is like the constructor. Not exactly, that's why I put, those are air quotes. I put air quotes around it. So now I have allocated a new array. And if you wonder, why didn't I just go ahead and do that up here? I could have done it up here, but for one thing, I wanted to show that, yeah, with an init function, you can initialize your variables that are not initialized. And also, way down the road, I think it made it easier to start a brand new game. Spoiler alert, and I don't even remember for sure. But I think this is a change that I made late in the semester last time I taught the class, because it made it much easier to make a brand new model if I had an init function that did all the stuff. Here is a for loop. For letter index, in, there's that keyword in again. And this is, like for I is 0, I is less than, yada, yada, yada. But the way you specify the range is 0, ... And it's trying to help me again. Number of letter options. I don't think I want it -1. I want it to keep going as long as it's less than the number of letter options. I don't know where it came up with that. What do I need to do? I need to put the letters in there.
You need the -1 and then run off the edge of your array, because it's 0.
Oh, thank you. That's what I need right there. That's what I meant to type. And that's what most for loops look like. They actually, logically, you set them up like a C++. You start at index 0 and you go to 1 less than the number of letter options. And you're right, I would need -1, except you can do ... That's just 2 dots, isn't it? ... less than, and that will stop at 1 less than the number of letter options. Okay, now I've got to put the letters in there. Letter options. And the way you put something in an array at the end, beyond the other stuff, is append. And I'm going to stop even looking at autocomplete. I don't trust it anymore. Letter option, singular. And there's a letter option down here. For a letter option, I have to specify what the ID number is. ID is, here's a handy number, letter index. And my convention now is going to be, go to the next line for the next. I also need to specify a letter. Well, look at that. That's just being silly there. I don't want it to make, did you see what it was trying to do for me? Oh, you silly autocomplete. It was trying to put the number, the index number in there as a string. Oh, it's like an insider Xcode joke. Letter. What letter do I want to put in my letter option? Not the number as a string. Quit showing that. Have we forgotten? We've forgotten. The symbolic constants has an array called letter. And I want it to be letter, number, letter index. You know what? One of my projects over the weekend is going to have to be drawing a picture of all these structures and all the moving parts inside them. Because this is already, without even doing a whole lot, this is already getting bizarrely complicated. Let's see what's going on here. Whoops. Cannot find letter option. Letter option. Letter option. Oh, it's complaining about this. Let me catch up to what I'm doing here. I started with this innocent little structure down here. And I said, the model's view of the world doesn't really care about the keyboard, so we don't necessarily need Swift UI, at least not yet. But it does need to hold the string that's on the key. It doesn't know if it's a rounded rectangle or if it's blue or whatever, it doesn't care. It does need to know the letter because that's going to play into the logic of the game, checking the letters and seeing if they're in the right word or whatever. And what else we got? This init function, if you've got a structure and you're not expecting whoever allocates this structure elsewhere in the program to provide values for all the variables, then you've got to do it yourself within a init function. So the init is responsible for initializing, giving initial values to all the variables that you have that are local here. So here's the local variable that I have, the letter options array, and I'm expecting whoever initializes the model to provide how many things they want, and then this is dynamic memory allocation here. This dynamically allocates an array. This is just defining it. This dynamically allocates it like calling new in C++. And now that I've got this thing, I've got it, and a weird thing about it is, even though I have an array, it's empty. It doesn't even have a zeroth element in it. So I've got to append one at a time all these dynamically allocated letter options here. I've got to append one at a time a letter option that has its index in the array of the symbolic constant array as its ID number, and it has the letter of the symbolic constants array that I keep referring to. It has this letter. So this is going to make an array of 6 letters with those letters that we just now saw flash before our eyes in the symbolic constants file. Who has a question about what this is doing so far? Okay? Yes?
How does the number of letter options know that we only have 6 in there?
Well, when we actually are going to have to say, make me a model now. I'm ready for my model. And when we say that, this init function says you have to supply at that time the number of letter options you want.
Okay.
So when I make a model, it'll look something like model, parentheses, number of letter options, colon 6.
Okay.
Yes?
What does append mean?
Append means stick it to the end of the array. You build your arrays, or you can at least, you can build your arrays in Swift one element at a time. It's not like, again, it's not like C++ at all. You don't have to brace yourself for the worst and declare a maximum number of elements you could have up front. You don't know how many there are going to be. So you could use append, which is like, it's actually like putting it at the end of a queue or something. It's like putting it next in line at the next position in the array. So the first time this calls append, when it's looping through this first and ever for loop we've ever seen, starting at letter index number 0, it appends the 0th element to the array. There was nothing in the array at all. Now it has one element in it with index 0. And we call append again. It keeps looping. In this case, it's going to loop 6 times. And one at a time, it builds the array up from 1 element, 2 elements, 3 elements, and so forth up to 6. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Pretty much.
So this creates an array of basically like conceptual keypads.
It's a theoretical keyboard. Actually, it's completely separate, disjunct from the keyboard, because the keyboard is a mirage that will appear on screen with colors and letters and everything. But the view itself doesn't even know what that means. All it knows is somebody told me to plop this on the screen and I did it. It's the model that is going to view these as letters of the alphabet that might or might not be valid in the word, or they might or might not have already been selected or something like that. So this is the brain that's going to keep up with how the letters are being used. But you'll notice, and I'm not going to do it either, there are no rounded rectangles down here in letter option. There are no colors. There are no anything that has to do with the appearance of the letters. This is the spirit of the letters. This is the soul of the letters, the theoretical underpinnings of the letters. I don't know how else to phrase that. The heart and soul of the letters are the letter options.
But if you were to have something like a circle, the identifier of the circle would be its color, right?
No. Especially with the way I've got it right now, because the identifiers have to be unique. That's the whole point of having an ID for identifiable. It's got to be able to tell individual different instances of that structure. It has to be able to tell them apart. And if they all have the same color, if they're all blue, it can't tell them apart.
Like the letter equivalent. Like we don't have a letter in our circle, we have a color in our circle.
Then, well, now that, if you remember, maybe you don't, maybe you do, maybe you don't. That's when we pulled this stupid, well, not stupid, cryptic, mystical, magical little trick here. The key labels themselves were not necessarily unique. I could have more than one S on a key, for example. Could have S over here, and S over there, and P in the middle, and P at the end. If I do that, then that's not identifiable because it can't distinguish between those different ones. So the trick that was pulled here that I got off of the Google AI was you can use ID and say on the fly /.self, which is roughly equivalent to the address of where it lives in memory. And even if you've got 3 different strings that are all S's, they all have different addresses in memory. I'm glad you asked that. That, if I go back to wherever I was in the model, that's why I said I'm hereby establishing, at least for myself, a new convention that everywhere I can, I'm going to put an ID variable to make it identifiable, so I don't have to play cryptic tricks like, say, /.self when I want to loop through them. Here, since all these letter options, now look what I've solved here. I've solved more problems that are not even going to arise. If I were to be silly and put keys in here that were duplicates of each other, maybe I'll put an additional F in here, or an additional A, or an additional S. That does not matter over here because the ID number is no longer the letter or anything associated with the letter itself. It's an ID number that represents where it was, its index number, in the good old-fashioned array of letters. Does that make sense? And all those ID numbers will be unique, even if the letters are the same. I could have the same letter for every key on my keyboard, and it would still be legal as an identifiable data type if I'm using the index number into the array rather than the value of the letter itself. You don't look like you're satisfied with that answer at all.
I'll ask you about it more later.
I don't know that I'll be able to cough up any more about it later, but I'll give it my honest effort. The good old college try. Yes.
So this is a silly question, but
My favorite kind.
I don't know. We're not doing this 4-letter index loop and then all of this that we're doing as a replacement to the for each in our content view, because that for each in the content view is spinning the image, the candy shell on the screen.
Yes.
And then but this is actually.
This is setting us up, actually. This is setting us up for doing things like figuring out what letters are in a word and whether 2 words match each other and all that kind of stuff. This is where all of the grunt work happens.
Okay.
This is, we are working on behind the curtain in the model.
Mm-hmm.
And behind the curtain, of course, if it's playing unnamed word game
Mm-hmm.
by unnamed publication from New York,
Mm-hmm.
then it's got to have its representation of the pieces of the game. It's got to have the representation of the letters to be able to construct a word, for example. Even though the model doesn't know what's on the screen and what isn't on the screen, it doesn't care. If it's got to play a game that's similar to Wordle, no copyright infringement intended. If it's got to play a game similar to Wordle, it's got to keep up with letters of the alphabet. So we're doing this for the benefit of the model. So it's got its own array of letter options. Now, some other things that are going to go in here, other things that this is going to need to know are things like, is this the selected key? Is this the one that they just now tapped on? Because if it is, that means that we, as the model, need to make that the next letter in the word that we're constructing. The screen doesn't know anything about constructing words. All I know is how to put all these colors and all these shapes on the screen like you told me to. That's all it knows. It is a big conceptual divide between the model and the view. It's also a big conceptual leap to make if you have it written code in this kind of wild and crazy frameworks set up before. And that's why it's so frustrating to me that they keep changing the overarching development paradigm. I've lived through Model View Controller and Model View Alone, and now Model View View Model. They keep changing their mind about how you should organize things. But for now, all of this stuff is hidden. There will be nothing here that directly shows up on the screen because of what's going on here. Now, I've got to eat those words just a little bit. The way the model shows you what's going on in the game is, I don't even know how to map this to the Christmas tree metaphor. But the model at all times should the view at all times on the screen should reflect or show you what the state of the model is. So if I do choose 5 letters for a word on the screen, then those 5 letters, the first step will be those five letters go somewhere in an array or something back in the model. That's the word we're considering. But when it's got that word, then somehow or another, the view is going to have to know, well, they're considering this word right now. That needs to be filled in one of the rows up there. Okay? It doesn't know anything about checking to see if that's even a valid word, or it doesn't know unless somebody tells it that some of the letters need to be a different color, all that kind of stuff. For now, let's just say the only options are a letter in this wild and crazy looking keyboard that doesn't look anything like a keyboard yet. The next step is, can we indicate on the screen somehow that the user touched on it and they want that to be their selected letter? We want that to be highlighted. So far, we're printing a message with a print statement that says, yes, they tapped on this letter. But you'll notice there was no change whatsoever to the view. So our first connection between the brain with no appearance whatsoever and the view that has no thinking power or a brain whatsoever, the first connection is going to be somebody touched on a keyboard key, and the model says, oh, then that's selected. I need to mark that as selected down here. You know what? I'm going to jump the gun. That's going to go here. That's the only place for it to go. Var is selected. This is not going to be any fun if the autocomplete keeps doing all this for me. Okay, I'll take it. It is a Boolean variable, and of course it makes sense initially that it's false. No letter that appears on the screen, as when the game starts, certainly, no letter is going to be selected, so it's false. This is where we keep up with that. If you do intensive study, which I expect you will all do, into the model view model, paradigm, development, design pattern, they keep describing, at least in the readings I've done, that the view is stateless, which just means the view doesn't have any data that tells you what's going on in the game. You can tell it what color to print a letter in on the screen. You can tell the model, keep getting confused, that's so confusing. You can tell the view that key is selected now, in which case maybe it makes it flash or bounce up and down or something. But it doesn't store that. You tell it, and then it reacts to that. But, well, actually, you don't even tell it. It asks the model, has anything changed? And the model says, well, this letter is selected now. And it's the view's responsibility, somehow or another, to indicate that on the screen. Ms. Katko, you look like you would rather be any place else in the world right now. Is your mind already on Martin Luther King Day break? I'm sorry, is it on Trump birthday break?
I'm processing.
Are you like the simulator in the lab?
Yeah.
It's taking a while. Okay. Well, now, notice, cannot find letter in scope. Did I misspell letter?
You're missing a parentheses.
Is that the end?
Here?
Yeah.
Still can't find letter.
I think it's supposed to be key label.
Yeah,
That's
all caps.
the name of our array. It's key label.
Man, you have such a great memory. Yeah, that was kind of dumb, wasn't it? Okay. Labels, plural. I will grant you each one per class period, one. Dr. England, that is so dumb. But you might want to save it until you really feel like you need it. Okay?
Is it one each person?
One per person.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's 6 right there. That's impressive.
So you can sell it off to somebody else if you
Oh, okay.
don't want to use it.
Yeah.
If you don't use it, is that bonus points?
Yeah, does it transfer?
You could save it for the next class period.
Okay.
You could get up to the point where you can say it after every single thing I say.
So by the end of the semester, we could have like 25 or 39 at the same time.
Let's see if I broke this yet. Where's Xcode? Where'd you go, Xcode? Well, I can't see my messages if I do that. Yeah. Shoo! At least I didn't break it. But it's still, you'll notice it's still not doing anything on the screen. Okay. Think fast. How is, whether or not a letter is selected, how is that going to be communicated? And if I didn't totally botch it, I might have given some idea. Who's responsible for connecting the model to the view? The view model, you're exactly right. And the view model is not doing anything at all right now. It's empty. Here, look what happens here. The view model owns the model. Here's what I mean. Var M equals model. That's French for model. And look, I have to supply a number of letter options. And yes, I could say 6. I am going to say 6 in the interest of time. But what would have been a better, more flexible thing to do there? Oh, I changed my mind. Use, what was it? Letter, no. Key labels. And look what happened. It says, you probably want how many are in there. And it gave me .count for free, and I didn't even have to look it up. I would have typed in size, and that would have been wrong. So thank you, autocomplete. You've done a good deed today. Let's pause and reflect on the implications of this, philosophical implications. The view model, as a class, has a variable in it, and that variable is our entire model. It's like it holds the whole world in its hands. It's got all the things that need to be known about the game there in that one variable. So anything that it needs to help the view see will come through variable M. Does everybody see what I'm talking about here? For example, let's expose the letter options to the view so that they can see whether or not any of them are selected. Does that sound like a plan? I like the word expose. Expose the model's letters to the view so the view can see it. Var. And this almost feels like cheating. Is that me or you? All right, doesn't matter as long as it quit. Var letter options. Maybe I should change variable name, but I'm not. That's going to be an array of capital letter option. And it's going to be a computed variable. How am I going to compute it? Well, there's not a lot of thinking to do. I'm just going to return what my model has. And here's what I mean by, doesn't that look like cheating? All it's doing is, literally, all it's doing is exposing to the view what it needs to know to be able to draw itself from the model. There'll be some other additional jobs it has to do when we get down the road. But for now, it's just the glue. It's a glue view glue, between the model and the view. Question on this so far? I'm so paranoid. Let me see if I broke it again.
You're doing great, Dr.
Huh?
You're doing great.
Well, you can, there's an unlimited number of those. You can say that anytime you want during the class.
Do I get bonus points for that?
Yes, you get 1 brownie point. And
How
when,
many brownie points for a regular point?
1 million brownie points equals 1 point on your grade at the end of the semester. So you better get going on that. It doesn't look like I broke it, but I don't know. Oh, it did say tapped on it. Yes, please.
Okay. Would you mind explaining what lines 14 through 15 do?
Here?
Are the naming of the variables, so letter options, is that the same as the letter options in the model?
It is because here's the deal. The model, we went to all this trouble and pain and suffering making this variable called letter options. And we had to allocate it, we had to fill it in with all the letters based on the symbolic constants, and each one of them, the reason for this thing down here is because it turns out that just the string that holds the letter is not sufficient. We need more information. Now, a letter option, remember, that's an abstracted keyboard key. That is not one of the letters that's going to be in the squares up there as a guess. Those are going to have to be something else. I'm going to run out of structure names. But this corresponds abstractly to one key on the keyboard on the view screen. Okay? But there are more things we need to know. We need to know the letter that goes on there, and another thing that we need to know, and there could be something else, we need to know whether or not that's selected, whether or not the user tapped on that and says, that's the letter I want next in my word. The model has to keep up with all that information to be able to do its job. So we had to make an array of a bunch of these things. So now we've got, in effect, a virtual abstract keyboard behind the scenes in the model. But that virtual abstract keyboard behind the scenes in the model needs to be exposed to the main program. And you know what? I'm going to change the name. Is this going to work? Not. This is probably not a good idea, calling this letter options. Help me. What would be a good name for an array that the view model is exposing to the view, but it's not really the view model's array, it's the model's array from over there. I was going to say this, but this, I'm afraid, might be more confusing. That's less confusing? Okay, so if you want to get at the model's letter options, you got to come through me, the view model. I have access to the model and you don't. The view is not going to have any variable of type model. It's not going to have access to anything that, well, there's not much to see here. But anything that is not directly exposed by the view model going to the effort to do so to the view is not going to be able to see. So here we've got the model's letter options. What are the model's letter options? Well, they are the letter options as defined back over here in the model. And I keep switching back and forth. But they're these letter options back here in the model structure. And the view model says, well, here they are. Here's what you've got back there in the model. So the view actually will get to think that it's being naughty now because it thinks, oh, look, I'm accessing the model's letter options. But it's not really. It's accessing the variable inside the view model, if I ever get that far. Is everybody semi-okay? Okay. Who's next? We haven't touched the content view at all today. Oh, we're still running. I wish it would. Maybe that's my fault. Here's what I'll do. I don't know that I will ever be a McPerson, or is it MacPerson? How do you pronounce that? I'm a McPerson. There. Now I got them both on the screen. And the content, you know what? Bless your heart, little globe. You've served us well, but you've outlived your usefulness. I'll even make that a darling. I'll comment that out. But yeah, that's going to have to go. And I'll assume that didn't break it. And here's what's going on right now. The H stack is building itself directly from all the labels in the symbolic constants. Now, new version, I'll call it. I'm not going to call it this every time, keyboard. I got to put that in quotes. It's not anywhere close to being a complete keyboard. It's still going to be an H stack. I'm copying from my earlier version. It's still going to need the for each to make a letter for each one. And it's still going to need keyboard. Well, actually, maybe it will be the same. Keyboard key with Q. No. I wonder if it is so artificially intelligent that sometimes it does try to make you laugh. It puts just stupid things on there and tries to make you laugh about it. What are we going to loop through now with our H stack? What are we going to make a key for each of? The model letter options. How do we get at that? Well, if the model variable is M, the view model variable must be VM. VM dot, and it was model letter. Models letter options. Well, of course it is. Except I think we have a problem. Maybe more than one. Did I misspell H stack? I did. Someone could have played one of their cards. It seems mean. Maybe it will put me into shape. Now it says it can't find VM. You know how the view model made a model all its own, my own little model toy, so I can look at it whenever I want. The content view needs to do the same thing with the view model. VM equals, make me a view model. LaTeX with parentheses. What this does is allocate space for a view model. I was going to say structure, but it's not, it's a class. Make a space for a view model object. Stop resisting the word. And put it in variable VM, and notice the error went away. Now, how do I get at them letters? Well, I've lost my place. I'm not using self anymore. I need to comment this out before it hopelessly confuses me if it's not too late for that. There. I've got a lot of darlings I'm going to need to clean up here. Oops. Can I convert type? Array letter option. Insert letter. Keyboard key. What is keyboard key doing? Is it messed up? Yes, it is messed up. Keyboard key. Here's the deal. The reason we put this local variable is keyboard key needs to know what letter goes on it to be able to, and I don't have a roadmap for that one. It needs to know what letter goes on the key to be able to put it on the key. Except it now needs more. It needs a package deal, does it not? I'm going to change this to letter data maybe. And what little package has everything that a keyboard key might want to know about displaying itself, like whether or not it should be highlighted and what the letter is and all that stuff? Letter option. And I'm sure the compiler will be happy to tell me where else I need to make adjustments here. Right here? This the only place? Yeah. And a letter option. Oh my goodness. This is getting wild and crazy. A letter option does have a variable name letter that's a string. Help me with variable names, please. I'm going to get myself into a big tangled mess. Well, actually, I'm already there. But maybe it will help if I come up with better variable names. It shouldn't be complaining anymore. Can't. Huh? Oh. Thank you. My turn. I did it on purpose, if you're paying attention. Now, let's see. What changed here? Instead of just being a plain old string that holds nothing but the letter, it holds the letter, all the letter, nothing but the letter. It's now a letter option, which is a little package back in the model that has, oh, look, it has everything you need to know. It has the letter you need to put on the key. It has whether or not it's highlighted, anything else about its role in the game. I mean, later on, I think it might need to know, am I part of the right answer, all that kind of stuff. So there'll be other things that we'll be piling into letter option later that have to do with that letter as it existed as the keyboard, except enhanced with this additional data back behind the scenes. My goodness, that was a speech. Does everybody understand what happened here? So help me remember. A keyboard key now has a variable named letter data. So what's this doing now? I probably should say for each. Why did I comment that out? Yeah, it should be for each, not making a keyboard key for the whole thing. Oh my goodness, I am not going to accept that. VM dot, and it was models letter options, I think. And this is now purely confusing and a waste. Let me see what we got here.
Need pass on options.
I'm not gonna call it model, holy moly. I don't wanna call it letter option. LTROPTION. Letter option in, I'm pressing return. Letter option in, now I can make a keyboard key. I hope. And the keyboard key has letter data. Right? Is that what a keyboard key has?
Yeah.
Where is a keyboard key? It has letter data, and that's, lost my place. Okay, for each one of the letter options, I make a keyboard key with letter option. Is that right? And I need my tap gesture to see what's going on. It did autocomplete that. Value of type view model has no member models letter option. That's plural, isn't it?
Yeah.
Holy cow. Yeah, it is way past picture time. Well, what have we got? We certainly got a string of data flowing around back and forth, well, not back and forth, but one direction through. We don't have it highlighted yet, but at least it didn't break anything. You know what? We are not that far away from, here's what's going to happen next. And I will do this video this weekend so that you can go ahead and work on wherever it is. You can work on increment 2 if you get bored over your long weekend. But we're not that far away. Here's, if you look at the screen for just a second, on tab gesture is going to say to the view model, they selected a letter, and the view model, you know what it's going to do? It's just going to turn around and tell the model they selected that letter. And we know what's going to happen, don't we? Then the view model, not the view model, I've got to learn to get these straight. Good grief. Then the model is going to say, well, look, in my array, they chose this letter, so I need to set its is selected variable to true. That's where we're going, and that's not going to be much further than where we are. I just got bogged down in my own confusion on this, and I'm sorry about that. But that'll be a 5 or 10 minute video, and I'll do that as a follow-up to this either today or tomorrow.
Would that include drawing of the pictures?
Drawing of the
Like, drawing a
pictures.
picture for all of the
My drawing a picture of all the data structures,
yeah.
that's not going to be ready until we get back from the long break, because that has, as you can tell, gotten complicated. And I'll have probably a couple of dry runs on that. I need to stop this video so we can get out of here. It's Control Command 5. No. Shift Command 5. Yes. Cut.